Hey everyone, Uncle Dane here again with some more Engineer gameplay. And today I'm going to be talking about one of the new weapons we got from the recent Smithmas 2014 update. That weapon is the Panic Attack, a multi-class shotgun that has some very interesting mechanics and is equipable by the Engineer, which is, of course, making it even more interesting to me personally. Before I get into what I think about this weapon, keep in mind that a lot of these opinions are mostly based on my first impressions. I haven't played very much with this weapon yet, and I haven't seen a whole lot of other people play with it either, so my views on this gun might change after we, as a community, become more familiar with it. But for now, this video will pretty much cover what I think about the Panic Attack as a concept, and more specifically what the Engineer can do to make use of it. So, let's go over the stats for this weapon before anything else. The Panic Attack has a constant 34% faster reload time. The fire rate will increase as your health decreases, and lastly, this gun can load up to 4 shells when you hold down the fire button. The only quote-unquote downside is that the bullet spread also increases as your health decreases, but I will go into what I think some hidden downsides are for this weapon later. I will start off by saying that when I first read the stats for this weapon, I was very confused by what some of them meant. I actually had to start using the weapon in-game before I fully understood how this gun works. Right away I noticed that the way it seems to operate is very similar to the mechanic for the beggar's bazooka. You start off with 0 ammo in your gun, and when you press fire, you start loading the clip, and when you let go, the clip is released, and you will fire however many shells you loaded, the maximum being 4 shells, before you start firing automatically. The other main thing about the Panic Attack is that when you are at low health, the firing rate increases. The lower your health, the faster the firing rate. But as a downside, the lower your health is, the less damage you do from far away due to the bullet spread being increased. It's a lot of increases and decreases, but before we go any further, I will talk about the beggar's bazooka a little bit. When I'm playing in a public server and there happens to be more than 4 engineers on my team, or if I just feel like switching things up and playing a different class, my go-to off class is usually the soldier. However, over the course of me playing soldier all these years, I've grown to fall in love with the beggar's bazooka. I started using it more and more around the time that I was beginning to become familiar with rocket jumping, so the topsy-turvy mechanics that come with the beggar's bazooka didn't throw me off as much as, say, someone who's already been playing with the default rocket launcher for hundreds of hours. When you use the beggar's bazooka, because your reaction time's a little delayed since you have to load the rockets in beforehand, you kind of have to be in the state of always firing, especially when walking around blind corners. So, long story short, after I had grown to get used to the way the beggar's bazooka worked, it became my go-to rocket launcher every time I played soldier. To me, the beggar's bazooka is almost like a direct upgrade, since the only real downsides are the one less rocket in the clip and the inability to get ammo from dispensers when active. I've been using the beggars for so long that I don't even miss my 4th rocket at this point, and now I automatically know to switch to my secondary or melee anytime I'm near a dispenser or a payload cart. A lot of people are probably saying, well, what about the random 3 degrees rocket deviation? Sure, it is a bit of a downside to never have perfect accuracy at long ranges, but I've just grown to rely on splash damage when firing long-distance rockets, and most of the time I'm in a fight, I'm at pretty close quarters anyway, and the lack of precision doesn't really mean much at that point. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that the beggar's bazooka is one of those weapons that people generally don't like to use because the mechanics are so different from other rocket launchers that it almost starts to feel like a downgrade in every sense. A lot of soldiers rely on being able to hit something with accuracy, as well as firing a rocket right when they press mouse 1. The Panic Attack, not only in the way that it works mechanically, but also the way it seems to work psychologically with players trying it for the first time, is very similar to the beggar's bazooka. The way that you load clips in before you shoot forces you to be in a constant state of firing when using the shotgun. However, I don't think the Panic Attack is nearly as good of a weapon as the beggar's bazooka, and here's why. 1. The beggar's bazooka is a rocket launcher, and the Panic Attack is a shotgun. Accuracy doesn't matter nearly as much when you use a rocket launcher, so diving into a fight with uncontrollable barrages of rockets doesn't go nearly as unpunished as attempting the same thing with a shotgun. And 2, the bazooka has a constant increased firing speed, while the Panic Attack's is only situational. The Panic Attack's biggest downside to an engineer is that it rewards using it in situations where your outlook doesn't look so good, aka when you're at low health. Looking at the other classes who get to use this weapon, Soldier, Pyro, and Heavy, the Panic Attack is a secondary weapon, and will always be used as a second option because, let's face it, you'd much rather be using a rocket launcher or a flamethrower over a shotgun most of the time. For the Engineer, the shotgun is his primary weapon, his main way of dealing damage when the sentry gun isn't up. So, when using the Panic Attack instead of one of the other shotguns, you're putting yourself at a little bit of a restriction on what you can do as an Engineer. Because in my opinion, the only time the Panic Attack becomes even slightly better than using a regular shotgun is when the firing speed is increased, and the only way to get to that point is to get yourself into situations where you have low health, which is never a really great idea to do in the first place. When it comes down to it, compared with the regular shotgun, the Panic Attack has only 4 shots. Sure, the increased reload speed helps negate that downside a little bit, but it only really matters when your health is low, since you can fully reload and fire the gun quickly enough to really make a difference. Another kind of bad thing about using the panic attack as a primary weapon, especially when using it at low health, is that when you're in trouble and you have less than 50 health left, it's very useful to have your reflexes on point. Loading the 4 shots into the gun takes about 1 second to do, and that's 1 second you can't afford to waste when you're already lit and probably have somebody in your sights who wants to kill you. So, looking at the overall effectiveness of the panic attack for the engineer, it's very useful for when you are 1. Low health, 2. Have more than 1 second to prepare your shot, for example around a corner where you know your enemy is approaching you, and 3. Within very close quarters, because the increased spread will make your bullets like cotton candy on anything outside of medium range. The only time I can see this gun being used in a way that consistently takes advantage of its upsides is when it's equipped by soldiers who use the shotgun. They already do damage to themselves from rocket jumping, and most of the time a soldier runs out of rockets, they switch to the shotgun to finish off their targets, and usually while they do this they're at low health. So if you're a soldier main who likes to use the shotgun in combination with your primary, give the panic attack a try, you might like it. However, I'm sorry to say, engineers, this weapon doesn't seem to have an amazing place in the NG arsenal. The only real way I can see the panic attack making a difference in your game is if you play defensive level 3 engineer, your nest gets blown to pieces by some demo man, you survive the explosion, and while the demo man makes a beeline straight to you with his bottle out, you load up a few shots and quickly deal 2 or 3 lethal meat shots before he can get to you. This is what I call a very specific situation, which means that the panic attack is very situational for engineers. And honestly, the sentry nest could have easily stayed alive if you were using the rescue ranger and or the wrangler instead. So there you have it. I think the panic attack, while it is a very interesting weapon, probably the most bold addition to the game in years, given its very unorthodox mechanics, is not a good weapon in general, and basically is a straight downgrade for most types of engineers. But I'm just a dude with a microphone and a copy of Team Fortress 2. My opinion is just an opinion. I am curious to hear what you guys think of the panic attack, especially from the perspective of other class mains that have access to this weapon. What do you heavies think about it? Is it worth giving up your precious sandwich to use? Soldiers, does it compare to the regular shotgun? Pyros, will you finally stop using that annoying broken weapon, the reserve shooter, and switch over to the panic attack? Or will you guys just keep making me cry by air blasting me into a corner? Leave your comments below, and join my Steam group. I give away free items on there. I hope you guys are having a great 2015 so far, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.